Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Monday, the 27th day of February, 2023. Let me make sure my volume is up. I don't think it's up quite a bit here. I'm going to put it up a little bit more. You can always adjust it when you watch, but usually I'll pull it back down and when I'm listening to the video before I upload it, and I didn't do that this time. I didn't bring it back up for the video. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I did this once and I listened to it and I kind of screwed up on one thing on the date right off the bat. And so I'm just going to do the whole thing over again. My husband's like, well, can't you just film the first part? And yeah, I can actually do that, but I haven't done it in a long time. And it tends to be a little jumpy and weird when I do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about what I had the first time I did this. And since that's what's in my head right now, I started out with the two runes, Ingus and Fortuna Major. And I pointed out to everybody in the first go around here that I use, let's see, what did I do with that? What I did, oh, here it is. I'll show you what I mean here. Let's start with Ingus. Ingus, I don't think is actually from the Elder Futhark. I think it's from a different version of it. But it's the center part of what Ingus is in that. You can see it's two X's on top of one another. Kind of looks like a little DNA strand. And here's the diamond in the center. Well, at some point, some other version of it would just draw it this way. And I was more comfortable with this, especially when working with bind runes. I find that this is an easier one to draw when I'm adding combining other runes with it in the bind rune itself. But sometimes I'll use the two X's. It just depends on what I'm doing. But for the readings and for all of the sets of runes that I make myself from different trees around here on my property, I always draw Ingus this way. So anyway, Ingus is a seed. It's about undeveloped potential. It's about that sudden release of energy into manifestation. I mean, just think about how a seed germinates and then grows. This can apply not to just that sort of thing. It can apply to ideas that you're germinating and then watching them come to fruition. It's this explosion of energy, basically, into manifestation. And so when you see Ingus in a reading, it's suggesting that something's about to gel, something's about to germinate for you and come into fruition and come into reality. You're about to manifest something. And then when I threw down the 4 elemental geomancy runes and put them in order of fire, air, water, and earth, I came up with Fortuna Major. And Fortuna Major and Minor, they both have to do with success. The minor one is about progressive success. And this is more of either the windfall at the end or the conclusion or suddenly you realize, hey, this is going to be really successful. It's that type of a moment. This involves more inner assistance, whereas the minor one involves more outer assistance. So this is having to come from within you, this manifestation of something new. It could have to do with perceptions. It could have to do with new opportunities, a new path that's opening. It could be anything like that where there's this undeveloped potential and it's up to you to make something of that. And with Fortuna Major, it's suggesting that could be a really positive thing. I then shuffled and cut the cards and pulled 3 cards. Then they were the Ace of Pentacles, the Emperor, and the 8 of Swords. And I left them in that order because I think that when you're talking about the rune Ingus and the idea of sudden potential and expansion and all of that, what you have, I think, is really I think it comes in the form of the aces of each suit. The aces are said to contain all of the energy of the rest of the suit. And so all in that one card. So you're talking about potential. And the potential for one thing or another to happen. And then you'll see what those things are in cards 2 through 10. The cord itself is a little bit of an outlier, although I suppose it could be included in that as well. And what you're looking at here, and what I did not say in the other first attempt at my video here, when you're looking at Ingus, and I'm going to draw the diamond shape that we have on this particular rune, what we're looking at is Kenaz from all directions pointing inward. So this is a very, very powerful creation rune. Kenaz is the torch, or it's the light of spirit. It's that higher awareness, that higher spiritual energy that invokes into form. And so you can imagine, that vortex of energy coming in and creating something, whether it's the individual or again, manifesting some idea into physical reality. There's a lot of energy that's part of that whole experience. And again, when you think of the seed that's germinating, you're trying to, if you do like we do, we stick them on paper towels, fold one end over, and so they're sandwiched in between the two towels, and then we spray them with water, stick them in a plastic bag, blow that up, and then get a straw and blow some air into it so it's puffy. And then depending on where it needs to be, if it needs to be in the refrigerator because it needs to cold stratify, or if it needs to just sit in a warm spot, whichever it needs to do, because some seeds require one or the other, then you're allowing that process to gel and to germinate and to get intense till suddenly that seed bursts forth, right, with the little tail that comes out, and now you're ready to plant the things. Well, the same thing. An idea could be gelling in your head at this point where you're really trying to decide, okay, what am I going to do with this? And so you're thinking and you're planning and you're imagining this and that and everything that could go wrong and everything that could go right, and make sure you do think about the things that can go right with this, right? Because too often we, as I said in the last version of this video, too often we get into the negative self-talk, which will become evident in the Eight of Swords when we get to the end of the cards. But let's look at the Ace of Pentacles. Here we have, now both Ingus and Fortuna Major are going to be felt in this card. They will be experienced in this card. The idea of Pentacles has to do with the earth element. So that's our physical reality, our bodies, our home life, our work, our tradition, it's kind of the Othala of things, if you will. The Othala is the 24th rune of the Elder Futhark, which again is comprised by both Ingus at the top and then Gebo at the bottom. But again, it's all Kenaz, either focusing inward on the top part or expressing outward on the bottom part of the rune. So it's all that same source presence energy that is trying to manifest something into our physical reality. And the physical reality is the key word here for Pentacles. Again, material security from maybe having a new job opportunity that you're offered and you take it. It pays more money. It allows you more ability to expand on your own horizons and all of that. But that's what this could be talking about. There could be a new opportunity coming your way having to do with essentially your physical life. Not, with swords, you're talking the air element, and that's your intellectual capability. It's also dignity, it's balance, it has to do with legal situations, reasoning, all of that. Also, sometimes intuition, but usually that's associated with fire. The fire element, which is wands in the tarot, that has to do again with also with Ingus, in that's that creative energy that spills forth into reality. It's that fire energy that makes that happen. So there's a lot of things that can be involved in that whole thing, but with the Ace of Pentacles, it's really defining it as these now. these can be purity, or these can be the sketchiness of life. And then once you take the leap of faith and you go through that archway, you see, then maybe you end up in much greener pastures. In other words, it just kind of depends on how these little things out here on the Rider-Waite one, the traditional Rider-Waite, to me they look like dead stuff. It just looks like dead trees and no life. But here, the way they have colored this in here, it looks more like my lilies that I grow. So if it is lilies that they were trying to do to begin with, then you're looking at purity of motive here. So it's a very different idea, instead of moving from maybe having no financial security, now maybe taking that leap of faith and going on a new path toward it. It could be that we're doing that with purity of motive and purity of heart, purity of awareness, having no agenda other than to take that leap of faith into something new and exciting, potentially exciting. So again, you're looking at, you also find the lilies in the Magician card. And so that's why I say, there's that fundamental potential that's involved there in the Magician card anyway. So that's when I was looking at this during the first attempt at this video. It occurred to me that this looks just like my lilies that I grow, even though the ones I grow are black. Oh, they're just so gorgeous. If you can ever grow some black lilies, do it. They're tall, and then the lilies are at the top. But they're just beautiful. It's this, I don't know, deep reddish black. You can just see a little bit of red in it, but it's so dark that it looks black, and they're just gorgeous. But I swear it looks just like this. And I was thinking to myself, wow, why did I not ever think that before? Because in the other one, they just look so ratty, like they're not growing or anything. And here, walking down this path through this hedgerow, essentially, and this archway that's right there, you go through this path into new experiences. You see the mountain there, new challenges, but it also implies some strength that's involved as well that you have. You have the undeveloped potential here of the hand reaching out from the clouds, which is typical of each of the ace cards. In each of the suits, you see the hand reaching out from the cloud. You also see it. You also see it in the Four of Cups, where a hand reaches out from the cloud. But the idea is that there's something undeveloped coming. It's the unseen hand that wants to create a little bit different, thought process maybe about something, to where you might think of things differently. New potential with the pentacle here, with the coin, of financial security or material security. It just depends on what's happening in your life, I guess, how something like this is going to resonate. But I think what can resonate for everybody is the idea of taking the leap of faith into this new experience here, going through the archway. Irrespective of the challenges ahead, you feel confident. And I think that you get that confidence from the Emperor card. Now, the Emperor is a stern fellow. He comes after the Empress. And in the last attempt at this, I talked about and something I've talked about before, about how when you take a look at the major arcana, things progress in an interesting way. They're the overarching soul archetypes, if you will, of what the soul brings in. And we have to remember these things when we're dealing with the more reactive aspects of our life, which really are defined by the small cards or the minor arcana. The runes, on the other hand, I view as in the same way I would as soul archetypes, the same way I do the major arcana cards. But here, this is the awareness that the soul brings in, that we then are tasked with remembering and having that guide us. But you see the leap of faith into form that the ace gives you. You see that with the Fool. And then the next two cards, the Magician and then the High Priestess, talk about the physical reality that the Magician is creating for us, and then the inner reality, the subconscious reality, the awareness of spirit that the High Priestess gives. And then the third card, of course, is the Empress, who gives birth to the world. Now, it's not the Lovers. It's not the Lovers card. That comes a couple cards later. But it is the Empress herself, who represents the goddess, who represents all of that birth into form, the creative aspect of self, creation itself. But what comes after her then is the emperor. So we learn to use our own inner authority. I view him more as her consort than as somebody that's, even though he's the father aspect and she's she would be the mother aspect. He's the father aspect. The mother comes first. So if you look at this whole existence of ours, there's a lovely thing about where we're, in esoteric thinking, where we're resting in the Great Mother's breath. She breathes out the universe. We rest in the Great Mother's breath. And when she's ready, she'll breathe us back in and start all over again, right? Well, that implies it's the feminine side of self, the feminine aspect of the creative spark, the creative influence of source presence that is actually giving birth to the world. Instead of it being a father that does that, it's the mother. But the emperor, it's not the emperor is not important. He is, because he teaches us about inner authority and expression of outer authority as well. He's pragmatic. He's strong. You see, he's still got his battle attire on, even though he's got the robe or the cape over it. But you see the ram's heads here, adorning all four corners of the stone throne that he's sitting on. And the rams would then correspond with the sign of Aries. And if you've ever known anybody who's an Aries, they initiate. They're the ones that have to be in charge. They go and they pursue their dreams. They're independent. They speak with authority. They want to be the one that people look to find out what should I do. So they're the person you go to a lot of the time because they seem to always have answers. Well, that's what the emperor does. And so, but what I think that what he's saying here, I think that we're looking more at the inner aspects of this than anything external, other than how you plan to manifest. Again, there's fire energy involved here, and there's fire energy involved with the emperor. So if the manifestation is that creative spark, then it's coming also from the fire element. When you look at the fact that it's all kin as, the greater than sign on all four edges of this, for views of the rune itself. I think it's all fire energy that's coming in and saying, I'm going to manifest this now, and that's just that. And I think that there's an element of that with the emperor, having that inner strength to take that leap of faith, if you will, to go through that doorway or that archway in the hedgerow. I mean, it could be a stone wall that the greenery's just crawled up and over on, but to me it just looks more like a hedgerow, and then someone has gone and done some kind of maybe a willow or something type of an archway there, and now that's the greenery has grown over it, all signifying elemental earth, right? But to take that leap of faith and to go through down that path, that new path, and go through that archway into new experiences, irrespective of the challenges, the emperor is suggesting, hey, you have the strength to meet all of that. And again, as the 4 numerology with this, again, 4 is a very earthy number. It's about your foundation. It's about practicality and the material aspects of life, basically. And then when you move to the 8 of Swords, now you've got a multiple of 4, and an 8 corresponds with the Strength card from the Major Arcana. And so again, you're looking at, in that card, you're looking at the goddess holding and petting the head of a lion. So basically you're looking at higher self versus ego. And so you're taming the wild within. You're transmuting ego into spirit. And that takes a lot of inner strength to do that. And so that's why I think also that the type of strength that you're using with the Emperor card, not only to meet the challenges ahead after you've gone through that archway, you've gone through that new doorway into something new, you have the undeveloped potential to do that with the Ace, And then the Eight of Swords is suggesting that you have the inner strength to either let go of your own perceptions that are keeping you back from pursuing new opportunities, or to turn off the noise of all the naysayers around you and all the outside forces that might be trying to prevent you from moving forward. This card really, to me, is one or the other, maybe both. Is generally the way I read it. It's going to be one way or the other, but I think I still, as I did in the first incarnation of this video today, I read it both ways, and I'm still comfortable doing that. You see this same type of energy, this same type of presentation in the Two of Swords, where a woman is sitting on a stone bench with her back against the water. And she's holding, her arms are crossed, and she's holding two swords in one in each hand, and she's blindfolded, and she needs to make a decision, but she needs to do it dispassionately. She needs to turn off the emotions as represented by the ocean behind her. And you see the same sort of thing here, the wet soppy sand that she's standing on. You can see more water over here and water here. So she has to take away the self-imposed challenges. You see the rock face here with the castle on top. She has to turn off the noise both within and without, essentially. And that's what she's doing by binding herself. She's also, and being also blindfolded. She's essentially having to go within to make the decision that she needs to make. And one of the other key words for the Eight is material recognition and approval. So if we're looking at Fortuna Major here, the below side of the significators here, the runes are always the significators of the readings, and what that means is they're the overall focus. And here we're talking about the sudden release of energy, the sudden manifestation of something new that can be successful ultimately with Fortuna Major. So if that's the overall thing, then she either has to get out of her own way, out of her own perceptions, the negative self-talk, the doubt, the self-doubt that we all have when something new is offered to us. We have to get out from under that. And then it can also be that you could have a lot of people around you. Maybe you're wanting to take a totally different, make a totally different choice than you've ever made before. And friends or family are like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? You've put your effort into all this, and now you want to go do something else? Well, sometimes, it's all that you've been doing that ultimately makes you realize you need to do something else. Or a new opportunity comes your way, and you have the will within to do that, to take that leap of faith, to make that choice that's different than you've ever done before. People may think you're crazy, but in the final analysis, you're going to be the one that says, well, yeah, but look what I just did. Look what I accomplished. Look at the material recognition and approval I have. Maybe I've started a new business that you really never thought I'd ever do. It's a total departure from everything I've done before. But look, I'm successful. I have a lot of customers. Maybe you decide to write the great novel, and nobody knew you were interested in doing something like that, but there you are, and there you go, and you publish it. Maybe you self-publish it, maybe you don't, maybe you go through a publisher, but you're successful at it. And then you want to do more. And people are standing back and they're going, oh, well, I didn't realize you wanted to do that. Have you always wanted to do that? Well, see, it could be a situation like that, whether it's writing or whether it's something else entirely. You may decide to open your own business. You may decide to go back to school and take and get a college degree that you never got before, or one that you're just simply interested in. I got a degree in psychology, and then later on I discovered that I was really interested in business. And accounting and bookkeeping and just business stuff. I wanted to know about that. And then now I write. I've always wanted to write. But not everybody knew that. And nobody certainly thought that I would be business oriented, and yet I was. And so you just can't put yourself in the same little niche that you've always been in. You have to be willing to let the Ingu's moment come your way and hear it. Hear that voice saying, wait a minute, maybe you should consider this. Maybe you should think positively when you go. Maybe you've been called in for an interview. You've been looking for other jobs, and you applied to one, and you got called in for an interview, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, they're never going to hire me, but I'll go, but they're never going to hire me. Well, what if they do? Maybe they saw something in your resume that you didn't even connect with, right? And so it's that undeveloped potential that Ingus is talking about that's ready to burst forth. And so if you're feeling like that, or if you've been feeling like that, then this may be the time to let go of those perceptions that hold you back. The negative self-talk, the doubt, or the outside influences that aren't very positive in your life, where, you say, well, I want to do this. Oh, you shouldn't do that. Maybe you had parents that were like that, or a mother or a father, whatever, or an aunt or uncle that you were close to, that every time you wanted to do something new, oh, you shouldn't do that. You should just go do that. I remember my father telling me no, and I realize I was born in the 50s, but in 57, but his attitude is, oh no, you should just go to college and become a teacher, because that way you can be home. Your day ends at 3, right? Right. What teacher's day ends at 3, right? But your day will end at 3. You can be home with your children, and I'm like, what? So I didn't, my life took a different turn, and because I wanted it to, right? I didn't listen to what other people told me to do. I did other things. Now, yes, I stayed home with my kids for the first 6 or 7 years of their lives, but that was by choice. After that, we both got black belts. We had a school, and then we had a motorcycle shop. And so I ended up being part of in doing business in a way that I was never interested in when I was in college. I was wanting to go in a different direction, but then I got married and I started having we had 2 kids. We moved over here, and everything changed about my life. I began to become more interested in herbalism. Ultimately, I would take herbal training, and I got an herbalism certificate. So everything in my life has changed. I've always wanted to write, so I'm working on my 10th book that I self-publish, and I'm doing all of those things that I always wanted to do. But it took getting away from the negative stuff and getting outside my own negative stuff, where it's like, okay, I can do that. I bet I can do that. I know I can do that. And it's that type of a willingness, I think, to step outside your comfort zone and allow that thought process to gel and think, oh my gosh, I can do that. And so maybe that's what's going on in your lives today in some form. And I think that if it is, what the cards and the runes are suggesting, that this is that moment where you can take that leap of faith and you can move forward along a path that's maybe completely new for you. You're never going to know how successful you're going to be until you try. And Fortuna Major is suggesting that, hey, this might be what you've been looking for. This might be the thing that's really going to get you what you want. If you just get out of your own way, if you ignore the negative self-talk, and you consider the possibility that, hey, maybe I can do something like this, and that I'm really more prepared than I ever thought I was for these changes in my life. And I'm really going to find, some soul level type of peace and alignment if I do this. You go along in your life, and maybe you end up where you are just by circumstances, but this is a moment where you can create the circumstances yourself, and you can create that positive outcome if you take that leap of faith and allow that whole thing to gel and explode within you into form and into manifestation, like Ingus talks about. So anyhow, I think that's it. I think that's great for a Monday. I think that, again, if something like this has just been gelling in your mind, or you've really been thinking about, hey, so and so's hiring, I'd like to apply, but I'm afraid. Don't be afraid. Try it. What's the worst that can happen? That they don't call you in for an interview? Well, maybe they're not the ones. Maybe, and the process of getting that resume together has put you in the space where you can give it to somebody else, you see. So again, taking that leap of faith, stepping outside your comfort zone, I think is the key here. Understanding the inner authority that you have and the inner strength that you have to make things happen, to assert those things, to assert yourself, and then get the material recognition and approval that's going to naturally come your way at the end of things, right? As you do all of it. So whether it's actual financial security or not, maybe you're just putting yourself in a better place where you're happier and you really find your own personal calling that maybe you just haven't been in a place before that you could discover. And walking through that new doorway along that new path, you might find that something really wonderful is waiting for you on the other side. So anyhow, I guess that's it. Thanks for watching. And normally when I do these, you'll see me pull the runes and draw the cards. I just liked the reading and I didn't want to redo it, and start all over. I just wanted to share that what I had here. Plus it was already in my head. So, anyhow, check out my blog, Stepping Aside, over at imsteppingaside.com. I changed the name Esoteric Forecast to The Week Ahead. And so that's up. That went up last night in the midnight hour. And so did the daily correspondences for work and magic. They're up. The Exploring Tarot post is also up. That one is the Page of Cups, I believe. Check all that out. Check out my writing over on Substack and on Patreon. And you can support me over there if you like. If not, you can just wait for the free stuff to come out. I put all my posts, almost all my posts, I give a okay for free subscribers. You can have it after this, like 12 hours or something, you can have it. But if you want to support my work, you can do that over there. That'd be most appreciated. I guess that's it. Thanks for watching. And I hope you click subscribe and come back again on Thursday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.